Hello, this is Malcolm Rose, and the last video I posted was me losing a 21 win streak. So, true to my usual fashion, like I did last time with the 8-win long streak, I'm going to do a little bit of an analysis. I'm going to wing this one a little more than I did before. I don't have like a PowerPoint thing like I did before. Instead, I'm going to use footage from the actual run and try to focus on that. So, kind of funny, but I wasn't planning on doing an analysis of this, mainly because I thought it was just a little too on the nose. Like it was just a little too obvious what the problem was, which in my mind was just walk away from the wizard, right? Like that was the obvious problem, and it was. But after speaking with Ultraviolent 4, a little bit about this, it sort of occurred to me, well, first he encouraged me to do an analysis because of our conversation, which is that there's actually quite a few things that were done wrong on this character. And while walking away from the wizard would have solved, every single problem, if I had done some of these other things differently before and after that, the character might have lived. So I'll just run through that a little bit. So I have the second video open, so I don't need to show anything from this. But the first mistake was really early on. I believe the character was just built wrong. If you look at the start of this video, this is from the second section. Right, and you see I'm already worshipping Vehumet. I started worshipping Vehumet around level 9, I think, when I found the temple. I wasn't really rushing into it. It's not like I found Vehumet early. I mean, my options were open at that point. I was a little invested as far as casting goes, so I don't remember what my exact reasoning was for this, but I guess I just felt like, oh, Vehumet, this is fun, whatever. Well, first of all, Vehumet is a terrible god, in my opinion. Really, really bad. And the fact that I chose Vehumet over something like, Sifmuna or even Rue, really, really came back to haunt me. Because the reality is that even if I had had Sifmuna, let's say I'm devoted to the caster plan, if I had gone Sifmuna, all those problems I was having in the Abyss where, a lot of it boiled down to I was running out of mana. Sure, I was getting hit really hard by some nasty things that were spawning, but I was running out of mana. With Sif, press one button, boom, you're good. Make use of that good invocation aptitude that Centaurs have, and you train it up, and you got channel, you're good to go. With Vehumet, it's reliant on me actually killing things, and to be totally frank, the amount of mana you get from killing one or two things just blows. Now, it's hard to account for you don't really plan on taking a trip to the Abyss, sure, but I just don't think Vehumet was a very useful god in that situation. But here's the other option. I didn't have to play this character as a pure caster. You can see right a second ago I was kind of switching around here. I could have, I did start training fighting and dodging and things like that. I could have just done that sooner. I could have gotten a weapon. Hell, I could have gone for a bow, and with the massive, massive, massive aptitude in bows, that would have been fine. As I recall, some of my reasoning was, well, wizard stats are so intelligence-focused, I should play it as a caster, and it's an option, fine. But this is the main thing that Ultraviolent 4 brought to my attention, is that my reasoning was a little bit specious there. Just because you have such crappy stats comparatively doesn't really mean, it's not as bad as I was making it out to be, although it is the most egregious on a wizard in terms of how much intelligence you get versus everything else. But yeah, the bottom line is I don't know if you should run Centaurs as casters ever, really, even with a book start. Even if you think it's going to be fun, like it's more of a challenge run thing, really. Now, are Centaurs still insanely strong? Yes. Can they make good casters? Fine. They can do okay. The bottom line is Centaurs are still brokenly good. They can walk away from almost everything. so you're going to have a good time as long as you don't do something stupid, usually. But just in terms of raw optimization, you know, what's the absolute best choice for winning versus losing, which is what I try to do for my streaking, that's for sure, well, maybe not for sure, but in my opinion, it's pretty certain that you probably shouldn't play a Centaur as a caster. So what I'm really boiling this down to is, in the very beginning, as soon as I found that temple, maybe I should have gone Oka, maybe I should have gone Rue. At the very least, if I had to play a caster, I should have gone Sif, just because then I would have been able to have extra mana whenever I wanted it. Vehement, in my opinion, is just a challenge god and nothing more. I'm sure that if anybody ever watches this video, I'm going to get some flack for that, somebody who really likes Vehement, but it's just an inferior god, and if you disagree, then sure, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So, that's number one. Character was built wrong. This is a three-parter. Number two is the thing that I mentioned at the start, and that starts at, let's see, I have a little timestamp here, 31. Let's go to 31. Okay, so here's the part of the video where I'm doing stupid things. We kill this elephant, and then we press O a bunch, right? Press O, press O, press O, and boom. We've now auto-explored into this. Now, first of all, if you're playing truly optimally, you're not auto-exploring, but particularly, like, let's say you want to keep your sanity, you can keep your auto-exploring to a minimum or not at all, only on certain floors that you know are probably going to be dangerous. And I gotta tell you, Lair 6 is one of them. Now, last time I died, it's kind of funny because last time I died it involved a stupid vault. This is a stupid vault. Whoever designed this did a bad job. Here's the wizard. He shouldn't be there. This is a hard gear check is what it is. And it's also very spoilery is the thing. Like, one reason I hate this vault is that there's no warning that there's the wizard here. There's no rune door that keeps you from auto-exploring into it. So, like me, I have that encyclopedic knowledge of the game, and I would recognize what this is, probably. Like, if I had been playing slower, I would probably have known this dude was here. And because of that encyclopedic knowledge, I could say, oh, no, goodbye. You know, exclude this off, leave Lair 6, never come back until I have 3-4 pips of MR. That would be the correct choice. I posit to you that that's stupid and bad, because if I'm just some guy playing this game, and I'm pressing O a lot, it's sort of silly that I have to have some weird encyclopedic knowledge of the vaults, if I want to avoid the chance of, boom, abyssed immediately, boom, paralyzed immediately, whatever that wizard can do. And then, like, if it was paralysis, he could have taken a couple steps, LCS me, and then I'm dead. You know, so this is just a suggestion. I think that's bad. Now, with that said, that's not to excuse any of the really bad mistakes I made, because this is the big one. Even now, it's not like I got abyssed immediately. I could have just said, no, and then trotted all the way back here. You know, I'm much faster than him. Even now, I could have just left. Even on a regular race, I could have left. I didn't have to be a Centaur. I could have spent some resources. I could have, like, I don't know if I had blink at this point. I probably did. I could have blinked right here, and then off I go, back the way I came. See ya. You know, teleported, whatever. I could have found a way to get out of here. So that was the prime mistake, and that's the reason I considered not even making an analysis, because it seems so, in retrospect, it seems so obvious. And a lot of that was just fatigue. Like, I had won 21 times in a row and wasn't taking it seriously. Like, oh, I'm a Centaur. I think at one point in this video, I even said, oh, I don't care if I get abyssed at level 14. Now, that was based on some faulty information. I didn't quite understand how abyssing worked. For some reason, I thought it was based on my own level, so I figured at this level, I would go to Abyss 1, which wouldn't have been that bad, most likely. But instead we went to Abyss 3, which was sort of like a murder party. and we had a real tough time in there. So that's a thought. Don't assume you're going to go to a low level of the Abyss just because you're a low level character, because it absolutely doesn't matter. I talked to Gamma Funk about it, and I think what he said was that it's more based on the hit die of the monster, perhaps. So Wizards Canon will send you to Abyss 3. So I'll unpause this. So here's the thing, you see me, if I remember correctly, I sort of screw around here a little bit, even after seeing like, oh, 50% chance. I start looking for MR+, I don't see any, and this is the part where I should have just left and not come back. I think I leave the floor and then pop back in, and it's just bad play. Like, actually, quite a bit of time passes where I'm screwing around on this floor, and I'm thinking that I can be clever with my spells, and like, here's the thing, what is all this for? You have to put it into perspective. What am I getting out of this floor? The thing is already explored. There might be like one artifact down here that I haven't gotten, a little bit of experience. What in the hell am I doing here? Like, what is the big reward that I'm taking all this risk for? I'm sitting here looking for See Invisible, MR+. The bottom line is, like, this is just way, 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 way too much risk for, well, any amount of reward, really, but especially for the meager, whatever's left on this floor, which is probably crap anyway. There's going to be the Hell Portal down here, I think, in this little area, which I don't think I ever got to. And there'll be, like, one acquirement tier item on there, which might be useless. Probably will be useless. So the bottom line is it was just dumb. It was just dumb for me to stick around on here, or stick around on this floor. So, anyway, let's see. Yeah, so that's pretty much point number 2. So point number 1, character was built wrong. Point number 2, walk away from the wizard. Just turn around, go in the other direction, right? So point number 3 comes after the big mistake, and that's just kind of the way that I did things in the Abyss. So let's skip forward. Now I'm in the Abyss, skipping around here. Oh wow, yeah, I even got to that. All right, so I'm in the Abyss, and I'm having a rough time. So with this, there's various things that happened here that made the Abyss tough. First of all, I kept running into stuff that the character just couldn't handle. Like cacodemons. What the hell am I going to do about a cacodemon? Starcurse masses, Raijus, things that were either too tough for me to kill or too fast for me to run away from, and fighting them would have been rather risky. So some of that, there wasn't a lot I could do about. Like the Raijus, I either had to fight or run, and that was it. I will say that I should have committed to one strategy. I kind of did this mix of fighting and running. I think that I was rather wasteful with the way I used my consumables, and I don't really know if I need to get into specifics here. Like here I'm fighting this abomination, which is fine, but there's other stuff around it. Like I know the cacodemon's coming. Some of my movement was really inexpert. Like if you watched just now, you saw I went this way. I knew the cacodemon was coming, and I just start walking back. I could be paralyzed here at any moment. It was just I was fully on tilt. I don't know if you know that phrase. When you're on tilt, the idea is you're suffering from some kind of loss, some mistake you made, whatever, and it makes you make more mistakes. The obvious solution at this point, probably as soon as I got Abyssed, was to say, like, video, pause, go chill out, go work on something, some kind of work or whatever, go take a break, then come back to this later after thinking about it once I was a little more calm. Instead, I played through this knowing that I was in a very bad life or death sort of situation on this character, and it led me to making very quick bad mistakes because I was playing quickly in a situation where I knew that things were bad. There's my Raiju there. So yeah, and look at how much damage that lightning's doing to me. It's quite a lot. So I burned through my consumables. I remember I had basically nothing left, but there were just better ways for me to use it. I could have left, I could have, well, I couldn't have necessarily, I mean, I would have had to use some resources, but what I'm saying is I could have focused on running rather than fighting, because I should have been a little more aware of the fact that this character just wasn't not really in the position to fight things on Abyss 3 and get away with it. Plus, the other thing is pretty much every method I had of killing things unfortunately made a lot of noise. I'll tell you, if I had this to do over again, what I probably would have focused on, I think this character had Call Imp. I probably would have kept a bunch of imps around me all the time, used those to slow things down as I got away. Raijus I probably would have fought because I had to. Star-Cursed Masses I would have tried to have walked away from. And here's the big mistake that I think the thing that really sunk me. If I hadn't done this, this may have changed the entire course of the game. I may have survived the whole thing. Let's check this out. And frankly, I almost view this as a glitch. Sounds like sour grapes, I know. But I'm not so sure if this is intended. I talked to Gamafunk about it, and he just kind of dismissed it as an artifact, not an artifact, but like an aspect of the Abyss. But check this out. Here I am, hurt as hell, alright? And I think I'm being just so clever. I have this digging wand, right? And I remember I spent a whole lot of time, let me look at my timestamp here, 104.50, yeah. So we go forward a little bit. I'm looking around, I've got all my resources, I'm looking at the Freezing Wraith. I realize this is terrible. He can do all my hit points, basically. You know, I'm pretty hurt. And he can slow me, which is what ended up happening. So I think to myself, gee, I'm going to juke him. I'm going to do the juke strat. And I decide that I'm going to make a hole in the wall. So if this wasn't the Abyss, that might have been cool. But what ends up happening, and I wonder if I can... I'm actually not so good with VLC here. There's got to be a way for me to skip forward just a couple seconds. Yeah, I thought about fighting him. What I probably should have done is confused him, just spammed it. But anyway, again, that's being on tilt. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it because I was playing way too fast. So yeah, what I ended up doing is I tried to juke him with a Wand of Digging. Let me just skip to... Yeah, that's me pointing out the 37%. Let's see. Skip forward. Yeah, so I dug through this, and then I'm like, oh, cool. So he's heading this way. Now I'll dig here. And then it fails like 5 times in a row. And by fails, I mean, you know, usually there's no chance for digging to fail. But the Abyss is just popping another tile right on top of it. And in the future, I will assume that will always happen. I was sort of aware that that could happen. I guess maybe I didn't realize how common it is, you know, for you to do a digging and then the tile just comes right back on top. The Abyss just doesn't like it when you dig. So in the future, I'm going to assume that I'm just not able to dig in the Abyss because I essentially rolled the dice and said, this is the path I'm taking, you know. This is the gambit, the life or death gambit, and because the Abyss didn't cooperate with that dig, you know, look how screwed I am here, you know. I blink, but now it's too late. I've got this here, I've got this here. I leave, I'm slow, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool, I'm gonna live. But of course, now I'm next to this guy, and I'm next to the wizard, and I proceed to just die to the wizard's lightning bolt. Right? And this is the point where I knew, because you can see the -1. So there's the moment of supreme sadness. So yeah, that's point number 3, which is just in general, better play in the Abyss could have saved this character. So it is kind of interesting how it shook out. There actually was a good bit to analyze here. There's before the big mistake, you know, just building the character correctly. There's the mistake itself, which is not walking away from the wizard. And then there is the Abyss play, which was just kind of abysmal. So sort of a before, middle, and after kind of situation. And it all added together to create a death. So it's not just one mistake like I was thinking. It really is sort of a full experience of misplays, minor to major, you know. But with regards to the wizard, this has given me a lot of thought on how I'm playing my characters in the future, because the reality is that while this isn't what happened, what could have happened there, and this could happen in dungeon as well if some stupid vault spawns a wizard or some other MR threat. What could have happened is I could have pressed O one time, and then I immediately get abyssed without a chance to do anything else, or I immediately get paralyzed without a chance to do anything else. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I actually have recorded a few wins. I have a new streak rolling right now. I think it's actually up to like 6 or 7 wins. I've kind of been spamming those, but I've been putting some thought into what's the best way to be immune to auto-explore deaths from MR stuff. And through some experiments and through some sort of just me thinking about it a lot, I haven't really come to a great conclusion yet. Sort of the best you can do is maybe to, I would assume, I guess to play a Deep Dwarf or something else with the maximum amount of racial MR gain. Centaurs get the least. It goes from 3 to 6, and that represents how much MR you get per level. 50 points equals 1 pip of MR. You need 3 to be immune to Orc Sorcerer, a little bit more than 3, I think, to be immune to an Ogre Mage. You need 4 to be immune to an Ancient Lich, and obviously there's a little bit of a range. If it's 50 points to get a pip, you know, there's a range of, there's like low 3 and high 3. You know, if I have 50 points, I have 1 pip. If I have 99 points, I have 1 pip still, but it's pretty much 2 pips. You see what I mean? So, having played a Deep Dwarf and kind of searched for monsters every so often to just see where it's at, you're basically immune. Even if you're naked, you're basically, if I remember correctly, you're basically immune to Orc Sorcerers by the time you are done with Lair. And you're really good if you have found an MR Plus item. But it just has occurred to me that sometimes games will give you jack. You know, they'll give you nothing. The RNG will just not give you any MR. If you're lucky, you'll get some body armor with MR, but probably not until you finish out Orc, which is where you first need it. Unless you get unlucky with one of these vaults. So I think there's just, other than building your character with an insane amount of hit points, which is kind of what I do with these guys. I mean, Centaurs get the plus 10%, or maybe it's 20. No, it's 10. Plus 10% hit points. I train a lot of fighting. So that helps if you were to get paralyzed or whatever, or even sent to the abyss. Other than that, though, it doesn't seem like there's a particularly good way of optimizing MR threats, just auto-explore deaths. So I bring that up, even though that's not really what happened here, mainly because it's what could have happened here. Absolutely, that first time I pressed O a couple of times, I could have said, "Oh, hello, wizard," and then boom, immediately abyssed. So that's just something I've been thinking about because it's absolutely a threat in the exact same way that auto-exploring into a 2-headed ogre is a threat, you know, and eating 75 to 80 damage, depending on what his weapons are. So, yeah, that's just something I've been struggling with, and we'll see if I come up with any clever solutions to that. But that's mostly neither here nor there with this video, or with this death. This analysis boils down to character was built wrong, didn't walk away from the wizard, and my play in the abyss was extraordinarily sloppy. So, in the future, you know, I was trying to play out all the centaurs and play a bunch of different species background combinations. I think what I'm probably going to do is something like a bunch of centaur artificers, you know, which is a little boring, I assume, but what I'm trying to do is get a world record, and once I get that world record, based on the established rules, not the tournament rules for streaking, but just the regular ones, which is just wins in whatever order you like, without any bearing on the or without any thought to the races and class combinations. By that I mean in a tournament, for example, if I win 2 Minotaur Berserkers in a row, or in the streak, you know, 2 Minotaur Berserkers, it wouldn't count. It would have to be 2 different races and combinations. You know, for every single thing in the streak. That I'm not paying attention to. I'm not paying attention to the order in which I win. I'm not paying attention to anything like that. I just wanted to show up on a Krasiak with me on the top slot. That's what I want. So once I get that dealt with, then I will start caring about doing interesting combinations again. So I'm just going to pound out like 40 wins in a row of the powerful centaurs, probably artificers for the most part, fighters, gladiators, whatever, hunters even. And we'll do a few fun things to start with. My streak has a few necromancers and things like that right now, the new one. You'll see that in the coming days. But eventually it's gonna devolve into a ton of centaurs again, and no book starts because I just want that top slot, and then I'll stop caring. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Hopefully I don't eat any auto explore deaths like I was talking about, and hopefully I can not be stupid in the future about these kind of situations where it was entirely in my control to walk away. So hopefully this helped you. Maybe you have made similar mistakes. I think it's an easy mistake to make, even for a veteran player. You know, for a newbie, this is probably just going to kill you. But for a veteran player who knew better, I actually did know better. Pretty much was fully aware. I had no information problem here. I even knew about the vault. You can still kill you just because you get cocky. You have 21 wins under your belt, and you think, "Oh, I'm a centaur. I can't die." You know, so that's the long and short of it. Is every game should be as cautious as the last. You know, I do think that that's extremely common in a streak. Is you just get on a roll and you stop you start believing that you are unstoppable, and you are not. So that's pretty much it. I hope this was useful. I hope that you get something out of it. New streak coming soon. Until then, I am signing out.